Yeah, we don't like the government so much, so just don't participate. No one's forced to get anybody you don't have to vote for anybody. You don't have to run for any offices. Just, I don't know, fuck off to the corner and be sad and mad and talk about everything's rigged and not working and whatever. Just do that.
Turned his mic off.
The idea of, like, everything she said was just, I don't know where to start. Self-funded his campaign. He self-funds his campaigns. Then why does he have grants? Why does he have super PACs? Why does Elon Musk donate so much money for him to get elected? Why is he selling 50 why is he selling 50 million different products? Well, funnily enough, that's just to enrich him personally. Whoa, hello. I guess those are just for personal enrichment, because actually when you go on those websites and you look and you see for any of the things that he, here, this is feedbacking. For any of the products that he's selling, all of those explicitly are marked just for him personally. They say they have nothing to do with the any kind of election campaigns at all. If you don't believe me, just go to the sites. Google Trump watches, Trump sneakers, Trump suits, Trump NFTs, Trump crypto, whatever. All of them will say they're not associated with the campaign. So I guess he's just personal.
Yes, agreed. He's a shameless whore. So is the guy from Kiss, Gene Simmons. That's just kind of, some people are like that. Yeah, we know.
Enriching himself off of his election run. That doesn't sound not corrupt to me, but okay. When we talk, there's so many.
Why is selling a sneaker corrupt? That's confusing to me. Like, you could do whatever. I think it's cheesy, but some people, they're whores.
Delusional conservative talking points. The no new wars. Well, I mean, technically the United States hasn't declared war since World War II. What does no new wars mean? Was it no new wars when Trump bombed an airport in Syria? Was it no new wars when we assassinated Soleimani in an Iraqi airport? Was it no new rules when Trump peeled back some of the transparency on the drone strikes in Yemen that it took Biden to end? Was it no new wars when Iran was bombing Saudi Arabia? Was it no new wars when we abandoned our Kurdish allies to Turkish attacks when they invaded Syria? Is it what are the no new wars? It's like the weirdest game of semantics in the entire world. There was absolutely military conflict that was happening overseas under Trump, but to pretend otherwise is to be delusional, which I guess is to be MAGA. When we talk about January 6th, I see we still have this idea that the election was stolen. What happened? Where was the proof? Where was the Kraken? Why is it that people like Powell and Eastman and Giuliani and Trump promised us all this evidence, all these court cases? Court. What happened? Most of these cases had evidentiary hearings. There was nothing. It would be an affidavit of a person seeing something going into a mail truck and saying, I think that these are stolen ballots, with no evidence, without even knowing what a ballot looks like. You can hear all of this footage is freely available on YouTube. You can listen to them present their case in front of state legislatures, in front of courtrooms.
And there are videos of the people counting the votes, putting poster boards up over the windows so you can't see them. They put them in a room with windows so you could watch. But whenever things started going bad, why would they put poster boards up over the windows so you can't watch anymore? Why would in the middle of the night, he's here, and then after they do a break, when they're not supposed to be counting, he's back down here and like that. This was all done in front of our faces. This is not something we didn't see. Like, everyone saw these things happen. That is what he was talking about. That is the campaign irregularities, I guess you'll call it.
Giuliani doesn't know Giuliani doesn't even know how to present a criminal case anymore, apparently. You can listen to Giuliani when they were presenting it in front of the Georgia court, when they were talking about the State Farm videos, and they were talking about the ballots pulled underneath the from underneath the table with the cloth over it. I think half the people in here probably still believe that those videos showed something. They don't. 4 hours later, Gabriel Sterling literally showed the 20-minute cut from those videos where you could see that the ballots were just put right underneath the tables and then taken right out as they were told to continue counting because there were so many ballots that came in. Every single one of these weird conspiracies about election fraud, all of them were debunked within hours of them coming out. People still believe them. People still spread them. Because remember, when the truth isn't good enough for a person to make money on, they have to sell you a lie, which is what Trump's campaign is all about. It's about lie after lie after lie. Nobody up here is talking about whether or not cloud seeding is real. Nobody here is talking about whether or not you might be able to influence the amount of precipitation a place
You were just talking about how it's not real. You just called it a hurricane machine or something.
Perceives. People are talking about the conspiracy that you are alluding to, even though you're trying to be tricky and pretend you're not, that the government was creating hurricanes to steal lithium from itself. I don't even know what the conspiracy is here. Like, if the government is so powerful that they can create hurricanes that I guess got degraded into a Cat 3. I don't know, maybe they didn't have funding for the hurricane machine, I guess. I guess so if they're sending hurricanes, why wouldn't they just buy the company or steal it that way? If Hillary Clinton is strong enough to kill Seth Rich and Podesta and them are doing satanic sex rituals, wouldn't they just like take a 20% cut of the company that was mining the lithium? Like, these conspiracy theories aren't even good anymore. At least like Jews doing 9/11 made sense because, oh, Israel's trying to get us to attack the Middle East. Okay, at least like stealing the oil made sense because, oh, you know, we have to go and we have to steal the oil because it helps our country. But now the conspiracy theorists don't even believe that oil is what it is. They don't even believe in dinosaurs. They think that oil is like a self-replenishing resource that comes from the fucking ground. He probably believes this. It's just...
Oil is actually dinosaurs?
He doesn't believe... If you have conservative family members, you ask them, do you believe in dinosaurs? They don't believe in dinosaurs anymore. It's not a real thing. And oil is a self-replenishing material that comes from the ground. Donald Trump tried to steal the election on January 6th. He created fake slates of electors. Every time you guys go to vote for president, you vote for the electors, and then they fill out their vote, and then the governors on December 14th, they say, okay, cool, we see the vote, we're sending it to Congress.
I think that's Adderall.
Donald Trump had like 79 different electors attest to being the actual electors. In Michigan, these guys talked about, let's hide in the basement of the Capitol, and then we'll come upstairs and we'll fill out our certificate on December 14th to make it more legitimate. He had these are made. You can go online, you can Google them, you can look at them. They are fake slates of electors with people that perjured themselves. There's a reason why Giuliani is now disbarred. Sidney Powell is now disbarred. Eastman is facing disbarment. Donald Trump has 34 felony convictions. He's facing 3 other cases, and his only defense is, I need to have criminal immunity for all of my behavior. There's a reason why these people that say Biden has weaponized the DOJ sit by quietly while his son is literally convicted of crimes. Meanwhile, Donald Trump pardons every single crook that worked with him. Every single person that refused to answer to subpoenas for the very investigation involving his election corruption, who came out and said...
I just don't know how he even has the nerve to bring up the word pardon after what Biden did, because this is after Trump pardoned his child, pardoned like all the people that were in charge of the COVID bullshit, like all of that, and he's still going to bring up pardons?
To the media, Roger Stone said, I'm not going to squeal on Trump. And then he doesn't. He gets held in contempt, and then Donald Trump pardons him. This is insane. To say that this is the party of law and order? I don't remember when the Republican Party became so deranged and unhinged, where they cheered on people attacking police officers, where they cheered on a president who pardons a military contractor.
It's like he doesn't understand. Just like I think Trump is going to learn in this next upcoming elections that you can't just abandon your base and do whatever you want and still think your party's going to get elected. Like Biden thought, I'll just pardon my son and then Kamala will get elected. There's no way. There's no way when you do things that blatantly obvious, like Trump's doing now, you're going to have some ramifications for that. That's just a part of life.
Who were accused of killing civilians in Iraq. It's just Trump's entire campaign and legacy is absolutely insane. And I don't know why we would think. I guess like the central question I would have is, if you are a conservative, I can understand not wanting to vote for Harris or Biden. Fuck, Harris is a little bit too left for me when it comes to economic policy. I don't deny that. And I can understand if you're...
How would anyone vote for her if she's too left for Destiny? Destiny, the blue-haired Coomer gremlin who lets his wife get banged by BBC. Who in the fuck would vote for her if she's too liberal for him?
Conservative, why you would be uncomfortable voting for her. But why would you think Trump is your guy? He had 4 years to do it, and he failed. The end of his campaign, the end of his 4 years was marked with what? BLM riots and COVID lockdowns and an inability... problems facing the country, and I just don't know why we would expect to see anything else.
We'll kick it over to Owen
I think they're fucking with him with the mics, because that's crazy. This is terrible.
for his 5-minute rebuttal as well. Thanks, Owen. The floor is all yours.
Okay.
A sound guy needs to be fired.
All right. Wow. So that's funny. The last thing you referenced, BLM, left-wing terrorism, and then you mentioned all of the lockdowns and the mask mandates and the vaccine mandates, again, all Democrat Party policy. So now you're arguing for my side. And you mentioned law and order. If you look at every Democrat-run city in this country, you will find chaos, destruction, degradation, poverty, and crime. It's just a fact. So, okay, law and order, again, How can you be a Democrat and talk about law and order when everybody knows that the blue cities are the most dangerous places to live? You've already sacrificed the point on weather modification, so I appreciate that. The problem is all of your viewpoints come from the mainstream media. And so I don't know when you've all of a sudden just blindly trusted government or blindly trusted the mainstream media, but it seems like that's where you're at in your life, based off of the things that you're muttering and stuttering up here at 500 words per minute. So I think that that's your problem. Now, Trump is the only person who got into government, specifically the White House, and lost money. He's the only one. Every other president, including Barack Obama, has come out with hundreds of millions of dollars, okay? So that's another fact. Of course, you would want us to sit out politics, because when we get involved, that's when you guys lose. But to say that I can just sit out and avoid the government and avoid politics, well, what exactly are you proposing? Yeah, I guess I could go be a homeless person in a blue city and live on a river, but I don't want to do that. I want to be part of civilization. I want to be part of the United States of America, and I have to pay taxes if I want to work and build something. I don't want my taxes going to foreign countries. I don't want my taxes going to foreign wars. I don't want my taxes going to illegal immigrants, non-citizens, and the list goes on and on. So no, I'm not going to sit out. I'm going to restore and reform the republic. That's what we're trying to do here. And this issue, you bring up wars. There was no war in Israel when Trump was president. There was no war in Ukraine when Trump was president. Both of these wars have accumulated for more than $200 billion. $200 billion. I imagine at some point in tonight's conversation, he's probably going to bring up free health care or some other social service. Maybe not, but let's just say that he does, because that's what the left loves. When they bring that up, I would love one time for them to talk about all the foreign aid that we have allocated every single year. Billions of dollars, now hundreds of billions of dollars under the Biden-Harris administration. Don't talk to me about free stuff, healthcare, education. Don't ever bring that to me until you cut the foreign spending. You're never going to convince me to give any of that money until we cut the foreign spending. Then you want to bring these hundreds of billions of dollars back in? Okay, maybe. But all this stuff you brought up about wars in the Middle East, again, Bush, Cheney, McCain, who all endorsed Harris now. They're all on the Harris side. So that one doesn't really hold water. Clearly, you did not pay attention to the 2020 election and the aftermath, because you don't know what you're talking about. There were multiple sworn affidavits. There were dozens of them. There were cases where they presented all the evidence. And in fact, there were multiple cases that resulted in charges, including in Fulton County, Georgia, Atlanta, where they were double and triple counting ballots, because that's a blue area, so they count them as many times as possible to run up the lead for the Democrats. And anybody who looks at the graph from the 2020 election results will see in the 4 key states, one pattern happened every time. In Georgia, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin, Donald Trump was winning the entire day. The entire day. And then right at 3:30 in the morning, in each one of those states, the perfect amount of votes came in for Biden, and the graph shot literally straight up. Literally. You are not being honest with yourself if you don't look at that and say that's some sort of an anomaly right there. When Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa both hit 62 home runs in the same season, the anomaly was steroids. There were vote steroids for Biden that year, and anybody who's not observing that and being honest about it is just either not looking or, again, not being honest about it. So I think we're probably ready for questions now. I've just responded to all those comments.
Thank you very much for that rebuttal.
I think y'all are seeing why Owen is arguing so vigorously against Trump now, because he bought in fully. He was actually doing debates to support Trump. So that's why it hit him really hard when Trump just turned out to be what he turned out to be.
So I'm going to read these as loudly as I can. Fourth, the first question. Of course, Stephen will get 5 minutes to respond, and then Owen will have 5 minutes to respond.
The sound in this debate is atrocious.
The first question, of course, Trump's 2016 border wall idea was labeled by Kamala in 2019 as a, quote, complete waste of money. Why should Kamala's plan to have a wall between Mexico and the United States now be considered a good idea?
Was that audible to everybody?
Nope.
If you're able to read it out, actually.
Sure. So I think the question was in 2016, I think Democrats said that it was a waste of money, it wasn't a good idea, and then now that Kamala's proposing a wall, why is it now a good idea? Was the gist of the, yeah. The idea that immigration policy could be boiled down to having a wall or not is childish. There's a whole bunch of stuff that goes into making good immigration policy.
If you don't have a wall, people can just walk across into your country. So it's not that childish. It's kind of childish to think we shouldn't have a wall, to be honest.
But the reality is most people, especially conservatives, don't think that illegal immigration is a big problem in the United States right now. It's very, very, very easy to prove this. Because if you look at what happened on the border, you saw that there was a bill in Congress to address those issues at the border. Everybody was on board with voting for this until Donald Trump came in and said, no, I need you to keep the border open because I need to run on this as an election issue. You can listen to McConnell talk about it. You can listen to Cruz talk about this. All of this is open testimony. It's not even a testimony. People just say.
He's literally trying to pretend like Donald Trump, when he was not president, was the one keeping the borders open and not Biden, who was in the president's position and was letting people in. They were tearing down fences that the state governments put up so people could come in. Did Donald Trump operate that bulldozer that took that fence down? Nope. That was people from Biden's administration. He's trying to change history right here.
Say to the media. Donald Trump said, I can't have you pass this border bill because it's going to make it so that I don't have something to run on. That doesn't sound like a very big problem to me. That sounds like
If we said something like that, he would call that a conspiracy theory right away.
politicking. Much the same, when Donald Trump was in office, Donald Trump didn't do any of the things that he said he would do at the border. He didn't get any legislation passed. He didn't make any substantive changes legislatively or through the legislature by working with them to actually effect any good border policy. He didn't get any money from Mexico. That was a complete and total lie. He failed on basically every single measurable outcome. He wasn't able to do anything. So again, if you think that the border is a problem, why would Trump be your guy to fix it? He did nothing except for what he could with executive action, and he's not able to lead the Congress in getting any comprehensive immigration.
So if you have one person saying there's no problem here and the other person saying, hey, I'm going to try and fix this problem right here, which one are you going to vote for? If you think it's a problem, obviously you're going to go for the guy pretending like he's going to fix it.
Have done. And the one time there was a good bill on the table that would have alleviated a lot of the issues with the asylum-seeking process, he shot it down. This guy over here is probably very keen to misinfo a lot of the stuff about the border bill, so I'll get ahead of a few of it because I know a lot of the dumb talking points, like the $200 billion in aid, the majority of which is used weapons, which last I checked can't help anybody with their health care in the United States. But for instance, when people talk about the border bill, they'll say stupid things like, well, that bill would have let 5,000 people a day in. No, what that bill would have done is if the caps hit a certain level or exceeded a certain level, the federal government.
Why would there be a cap on letting illegal immigrants into your country? There should be no cap. There should be zero. That's where we're at now. So Trump is doing a little bit good there on the border. I'll say that. So if your big issue was the border, he still did more than anybody else has ever done.
Would have been able to unilaterally shut the border down, which would have actually prevented more people from coming in if numbers got too high until the numbers had come back down. This bill would have allowed for more asylum judges to be paid for so that we could work through the backlog of people better. This bill would.
Yes, that's what we need. More judges to let them people come in anyway. No, we'll just shut it down to where they don't come in. That's a better solution for us, Destiny.
Would have allowed for more border security and for more people to prevent people from coming over illegally across the border. This bill would have helped a lot of the problems with the border, but Republicans were more keen to see a fight over politics rather than alleviating the problem. So I guess it was never really that big of a problem to begin with.
Thank you. And Owen, you have 3 minutes to respond.
Well, that's just a blatant misrepresentation of the congressional bill. It was never going to permanently shut down the border. It was going to set a cap per day, which would have maxed out still over 1 million border crossings per year. And they love to play this game with asylum. They're basically just rewriting the laws, and so anybody can seek asylum. Anybody can get on the app, the CBP One app, and claim to be an asylum seeker. This is not asylum. Asylum seekers go to their bordering country.
Yep.
That's an asylum seeker. These are people who are coming to the United States of America for free food, free health care, a hotel to stay at, and a free transportation trip wherever they want to go. That's why they're coming here, and they basically rewritten the laws where everybody is rubber stamped as an asylum seeker. So you can sit here and say, oh, asylum seekers. Well, anybody and everybody from all across the planet can come here and now claim to be an asylum seeker, and you're just rewriting the phrase and the concept of illegal immigration. But you're just wrong. It's still over $1 million a year on this bill, but still you're completely misrepresenting it. The reason why the Republicans decided not to vote for this bill is because it did include all the pork barrel spending. This is how corrupt Congress is, and both sides do it. The Republicans and the Democrats do it. They've been doing it for years. They just tried to do it again on the continued resolution, but they couldn't even get the SAVE Act passed. So they'll have a bill with a major issue. Let's say it's border security. And then they'll pork barrel funding of all these different projects, all these different things that a governor over here might want, a representative over here might want, a senator over here might want, and they toss it all into this bill, and they say, this is the border security bill, and then if you don't sign it, you're not for border security. And it's just a game. It's a game that our politicians have been playing against us, all of us, for years. So yeah, I'm glad that the Republicans didn't do it in a rare moment, but yeah, are they still going to get the pork barrel they want? Yes. Are we still going to get all the illegal immigration that they want? Yes. So we still lose on that issue. Now, again, to sit here and pretend like the border...
This was all before the Doge cuts too, so they didn't even know. But that what Owen is saying contributed all to the stuff that they cut with Doge. All those agencies that were getting money, that's all from the pork he's talking about. That's how it all got built up. That's why it was very important to get rid of all that, so we're not paying for lesbian studies classes in Afghanistan or weird shit like that. There's no reason for any of that. We're America. We don't need to worry about what you get educated with. Let you do your own propaganda.
Was less secure or not secure under Donald Trump is just not being honest. The numbers are proven that the border crossings were down under Donald Trump. And every year since the Biden administration, the Biden-Harris administration has been in power, you've had a record number of illegal crossings. 3 straight years. And by the way, where are the 325,000 missing children that they have let in? Why did Kamala Harris cancel the border wall construction that was already paid for but now pretends to do it? It's because she's a flip-flopper and she'll say whatever she needs to get fools like this to vote for her.
Now a question for Owen. Prepared earlier, and the question for you, Owen, is: while no taxes on tips nor on overtime from Donald Trump may help many Americans with the current high cost of living, many other Americans don't receive tips on the job and don't work at an hourly rate. Are there any blanket policies that would help Americans as a whole deal with the currently higher cost of living?
Absolutely. And in fact, Trump needs to go a lot farther with this. No taxes on tips might have been a lucky strike for Donald Trump, since this election will likely come down to Nevada, even more specifically Las Vegas, where most people work for tips. That's why Kamala Harris was so quickly to steal that policy, because they're well aware that Las Vegas could end up deciding this election the way the Electoral College might go. No, I think it's pretty clear. And again, this isn't a Republican thing. This isn't a Democrat thing. This isn't a conservative, liberal, left, right. This should be all Americans. Everybody should agree with what I'm about to say. By the time it's all said and done, we're taxed at about a 30% rate. By the time we buy things, sell things, spend things, earn money, whatever it is, you're taxed at about a 30% rate. That is astronomical, okay? What we need to do is a flat tax, and I would just say just a sales tax, and that's it. We should have no income tax, no federal income tax, no state income tax, no tax on tips. You should be able to make a transaction without the government getting involved 5 times, reaching into your pocket and shaking you down like the mafia that it is. So if we need tax for certain things in civilization, we can have a small sales tax, and that would be more than enough to still pay for the roads, the police officers, and everything else. It would be more.
White dudes for Harris are basically destiny. That's the guys that are the white dudes who are for her. That's what they look like.
More than enough. Yeah, we might not be able to afford all the wars overseas. Yeah, we might not be able to give Ukraine $200 billion and Israel $10 billion every time they come to Washington, D.C. Yeah, we might not be able to afford that. Oh, well, I think the American people will be able to get over that, quite frankly. So, no, I don't think it goes far enough. And this whole concept that I always hear these talking points from the left. Oh, the rich don't pay their fair share. Well, what is the fair share? What is the fair share from the rich? They already pay the most in taxes by far. The rich pay 90% of the taxes, but this is still solved with a flat sales tax, because who's going to be taxed more on a flat sales tax? The rich. Who's going to be buying a yacht? The rich. Who's going to be buying a skyscraper? The rich. Who's going to be buying a jet? The rich. So it really knocks out all the problems. It takes care of the left wanting the rich to pay more taxes because they buy more things, spend more money, and it gets the government out of the middleman and the middle class and the lower classes' lives, where we're not spending as much on taxes either. So it's a nice policy to get a talking point started. It's a nice policy that could end up determining the results of this election, but this is beyond party lines. We are taxed way too much. We need to cut taxes down to almost nothing. And by the way, for all these people that want more government services and all this thing, why don't they just volunteer to pay more taxes? I'm sure the IRS would take your check, but I noticed that all the people that want more taxes, they never volunteer to pay more taxes. They want somebody else to pay those taxes, not themselves. Somebody else has to pay those taxes. So I'm not going to do the class warfare crap. Every single American should be upset at how much we get taxed. We used to throw tea in the Boston Harbor for a 2% tax. Now we tax about 30% of the money that we make and spend. It's over the top. It's out of control. We need to cut this thing down. And Trump just going after tips, payroll, and all the other things he's mentioned, I think Social Security, yeah, that's a nice start. Let's keep going. Let's keep cutting. And cut the government down about 98% too, and you won't need all these taxes.
I'd almost be okay with a billionaire tax, though. I'm tired of the elites just ruling us, so let's hit them. Let's make a billionaire tax just for them, because I'm tired of it, man. If you own any media agency, you can pay a little extra in taxes, but they have loopholes to where they don't even pay what we would pay if we owned it. It's just backwards.
Kick it over to Stephen for his 3-minute response.
Yeah, so, I mean, like, if you have no understanding of economics, I guess we can say that a flat tax is a good idea. Allow me to introduce a very simple concept. It's called marginal utility, okay? What does marginal utility mean? It means that the next dollar that you have means a little bit less to you than the one that you had before. So what does that mean? Well, if you go to somebody that makes $40,000 a year and you say, hey, give me $5,000, that $5,000 from that person means a whole lot more than you go to a person that makes $500,000 a year and say, hey, give me $5,000. Because the marginal utility of the next dollar that you earn is less and less and less. Once you're making past 7 figures, you might not even miss $10 or $20 or $30,000 missing in your account, because who keeps track of it? Whereas when you're poor, or when you're working poor, or when you're lower middle class, or even middle class, you do notice when there's an extra few $100s that go to a tax, an expense, whether it's childcare, whether it's whatever else. These are costs that everybody has to deal with. In order for our society to function, in order to support the successful businesses and billionaires that we have in our society, some level of redistribution is probably required. Probably doesn't work when you have a society with some people that make billions of dollars, whether that's in the appreciation of assets or whether that's through W-2 wages or whatever, right? Millions of dollars through W-2s, right? And then you have a bunch of people that can barely afford to live in the cities that they are working for these people in. When I stream my stuff on Twitch or if I stream my stuff on YouTube, I'm not just relying on my stream and the people watching me. I'm not even just relying on the engineers that keep all of that infrastructure working. I'm also relying on the people that keep the buildings clean. I'm relying on the people that work as baristas and servers that serve the people food that might work in these downtown areas. I'm relying on the bus drivers. I'm relying on the emergency medical services. There's a whole chain of people that exist that make it so that I can do my job that I think it's okay to pay into. And anybody that's in America, a country that allows you to be the best version of yourself more than any other country in the world, I think that when you live in this country, I think that you also do owe a debt to it. And you owe a debt to the people that work in this country and keep it running. And the idea that somebody making over $1 million a year can't pay a little bit more in taxes to keep that country functioning is absurd to me. And then this idea of, oh, well, if you think it's so important, then why don't you just pay more taxes? If there is
He's acting like millionaires are like just this nothing. Like I remember when a millionaire was like this huge thing. Like if you were a millionaire, they thought you just thought you ruled the world. Like it's not like that no more. $1 million is not really like $1 million when we were younger, because it was just different money. We didn't. This is now that they've been mass producing money with nothing to back it. It's not worth the same thing. Like a house back then was like $80,000, $60,000. Now they're $400,000. So $1 million is not really. No, I'm saying a billionaire tax would work, but I wouldn't go for a millionaire tax just because of the way inflation's made everything crazy.
If there's a stone in the middle of the room and it takes 10 of us to lift it, and there's, one guy saying like, hey, we should go lift the stone. He's like, oh, well, why don't you go lift it on your own? It doesn't make any sense, right? A few people saying, okay, well, fine, I'll pay more in federal income taxes doesn't really do anything for the country. This idea of the citation to the Boston Tea Party is hilarious, given that MAGA people are some of the least constitutionally respecting people in the history of the United States, whose president literally said he would terminate the Constitution because he wanted to go and find voter fraud. A guy who, given a softball question by Sean Hannity, asking him, hey, when you were talking about what you would do in office, that was a joke, right? And he's like, it was a joke, except on day one, I will be a dictator, okay? This is the guy that you're going to talk about and then bring up the Boston Tea Party. Also, the Boston Tea Party didn't happen because of no taxation. It happened because of no taxation without representation. The second part is important. We can consent to being taxed. We can vote on politicians that do taxes. We can vote on politicians that do spending. If you want to do something about the level of taxation as well, you have to pair it with budget cuts. This idea that Donald Trump is, again, the guy that is going to help you because he's going to cut taxes, where are the budget cuts? What are you actually cutting from the budget? And keep in mind as well that on the federal spending, 25% of this is in our discretionary spending. So when you're crying so much about, oh, foreign aid to Ukraine, which again, you haven't addressed, but it's like 20 billion in cash, not 200, okay? The rest is usually in the form of old armaments, so we have to pay.
And an extra tax if you own anything media related. Like if you're part of the propaganda administration, like the propaganda apparatus, then you should have an extra tax on top of you because you're just distributing propaganda at this point.
Anyway, where was the spending cuts from Donald Trump? They didn't exist. So what? Are we just going to continue to deficit spend 75%?
We have to move. Thank you very much, Stephen.
Can I get a quick rebuttal? Have a quick rebuttal?